Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and that cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
Guys, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
I'm looking forward to diving into your music now over the next bit. So, John, you're known for your years with Red Tape Riot. You're back with a bang with the John Battersby Band. Can you tell us all about it?
Yeah, in fact, actually, Marc was also in Red Tape Riot. He was the drummer. But when I first started this project, for the first sort of year and a half, it was actually a different drummer. And then somewhere along the line, Marc and I spoke, and I said, we need a new drummer in. So Marc came in. But yeah, basically, after Red Tape Riot, took about a 2-year break. Had been playing for so long in various bands and acts that I decided I just needed a break, just needed to get away. And actually didn't know what I was going to do after that, and what kind of music, and if I was going to get back into playing. And then sure enough, I got the bug and I started to play a little bit and try. And then suddenly I had a sort of a vision of what I wanted to do and create something really authentic and something that's sort of very true to me and what I want to do. And then I wanted to get together a group of people who wanted to share that and wanted to create something with me. So it just came from there, and it was a slow process. And then, yeah, after about 6 months, I was in the room writing music with people, and Tristan was the original guy who joined me on lead.
Yeah, some guys before that, though.
Yeah, Tristan actually used to come to our band room at Red Tape Riot to come check out what the vibe was. So
long.
It's a very close-knit family.
Right. And what was it like trying to find members for the band? Was it easy, I suppose, because all the years you have in the industry?
It was actually. I think, as I say, Tristan was watching our band at band practice. He just popped in. At first, I didn't really know that he actually played guitar, and now I realize that he's like ridiculous on guitar. But yeah, so I called him, and then there was another guy who played in a band with me about 15 years ago. I called him to come, and I said, "Do you want to play some drums?" And there was a guy who filled in for 3 months in Red Tape Riot on guitar, so I called him, and those are the original guys. And then slowly but surely, as you know, when you first start something, there's about a year or year and a half where there's lots of changes, and someone comes in, someone comes out, and I'm so happy I ended up going full circle, and I'm working with Marc again, which is great. But yeah, Tristan and I are the two left from the beginning of the John Battersby Band project, which started 2 years ago.
I gotcha. And you released the album Stone Figures on the 12th of January. What can you tell us about it?
Well,
It's the first one.
it's the debut album. No, I mean, Stone Figures is an album, as I say, dedicated to sort of being authentic and true to yourself, and creating music that speaks to ancient truths and things that sort of remain true across mankind, and then also about ancient places. So there's actually a place which inspired a lot of the music, is a place called Cederberg, which is about 3 hours from where we are here, and it's an incredible place in the mountains. And there's just ancient rock painting and ancient stone, and it's an ancient feeling place. And that feeling I sort of brought into quite a few of the songs. But yeah, it almost felt like a return after. I mean, Red Tape Riot did its thing, but it felt like a return to what felt really natural. I wasn't trying to do anything or trying to make anything or thinking let's make the radio, or there was no goal really besides let's do this for ourselves and for the enjoyment of being with friends and playing music. That's where it all started. I actually, to add to that, when I was in the 2 years out, I realized what I missed. And what I missed was just being with my friends in a band room. That's all that's the only thing that motivated me to come back. Is I really can't like stay away from writing music in a room. It almost feels like a puzzle creating a song. A puzzle that sort of comes from somewhere deeper. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
So that, and obviously live, being on stage is quite fun. You get to rock out, but mainly just mates and playing music.
Yeah. You wouldn't have thought maybe like joining a football team or something with your mates, scratch the itch that way.
I can't say we're the best sportsmen.
We are.
I don't think. You're a tennis player.
I played sports in school, but in South Africa, so I didn't really play much football, as you call it, or soccer, or whatever. We didn't really play that much, so no. Yeah, so you know this country. It's all about rugby.
Yeah. Kind of the same over here. We're more into rugby than soccer. But
absolutely,
the original vision for Stone Figures, how does it compare to the finished product?
It's a good question.
That's a very good question. I would say it's quite aligned. I think some of the more recent stuff that we wrote sort of last maybe veered into what might be called the sort of next part of the band, sort of what's coming next. Songs like In Front of You, that's a track which is almost, I would say, it's coming from sort of future sound that we're going for. It will be slightly more progressive, I think, from here. But this lines up. I mean, people have even heard the influences. I mean, this album was inspired by my dad's music, stuff that I used to listen to with him, Tom Petty and Dire Straits and Bob Dylan, and you can probably hear it in some of the music. And it's been inspired by that. But I think it's pretty much come out the way. What do you think, Tris?
I'd say like the original versions of the songs were a lot more old school, a lot like the influences you were saying. But as we got further down the line, it kind of became a little bit more modern. Yeah, just in terms of the tones and also what you kind of brought to it.
It was inevitable that people were going to bring their sounds, to the project. So, I mean, my vision obviously I don't want it to be, the reason it's not called John Battersby, it's called John Battersby Band, is I wanted it to be a band where everyone's sound is equally represented in the sound. So my vision in the beginning was not meant to be the complete, full 100% image vision by the end. So these guys added a whole bunch of flavor in there, but for me, it was more just about being really authentic. That's what it was all about.
We also like quite a few different members throughout the writing process, and that shaped the music quite a bit as well. Just like little pieces that
personality
kind of kept.
Yeah.
I was going to mention the writing process, actually. You guys really took your time with it and were very meticulous. Can you walk us through that time, why it took so long, what it was like?
I think the reason it took so long is we kind of included, I think we included time that we possibly shouldn't have included in the whole write-up of the band, because, we walked in and it was from scratch, and we're like, well, let's begin. And then there was a year of band members sort of being tweaked and things changing, and we were actually still finding our sound. I mean, I had the vision, but it wasn't going to be 100% that. So I just had to find that formula, and we had to come to okay, now we're at a place, and that was only about a year ago. So I mean, from actually having the songs to now, it probably was a year and a half, but it took us a while to get the sound and to create all the songs and all the music. I mean, we just didn't have any. We started with zero, and I didn't bring any into the room. We wrote it in the room. So it's actually. Yeah, it sounds longer, but
that's just the thing with the member changes. That every time you get a new member, they need to learn the songs and kind of bring their own thing to it. And then we get another member, and you go through that whole thing again. Yeah, it takes a while.
I suppose at times it must have felt like you were never actually going to get to the end of it, did it? With the member changes.
It's actually funny. You should say that. About a year ago, we were like, "Wow, this is really tough," but we actually really pushed and persevered, and I think I don't know, I think we really believed that it was going to come out okay in the end. And also, I think we did it in a way that other bands don't. I mean, usually bands have a few gigs, they play some live music, and then they start to think about doing an album. We did it all backwards. We're going to launch the band live and with an album at the same time. So we basically had to create everything, the whole sound, the live tone, everything.
Identity, basically.
We had to create everything all in that time. So it was quite a pressure, but it really has been so worth it launching with an album. So your first gig, you've actually got albums to share with people. You know, that's what there's actually there was a bit of thinking behind that, is that I don't want someone to see a single, watch you live, and then that's all they've got. I want the first time for them to come to your profile to find like some music to listen to. Like there's a whole album now. It's like the first time they've heard the band, there's a whole album. It's not just one song.
It's not something that happens very often these days.
No, this whole thing, a lot of the things we did are pretty counterintuitive to what is the modern way of doing things.
I was going to say old school.
But the problem is, I didn't give a shit. The problem, I think we really didn't care about the actual process and the way it was meant to be done. I just wanted to arrive with a host, with the music and a sound, so we know.
The songs are done. You're not still testing them out on the road.
I get you.
The album itself is a bit of a journey from beginning to end. You can hear through the influences, and it was quite cool for me to join kind of right at the end and listen to the, let's say, finished music, and take on this material and think to myself, where does this come from? What is the journey that you're going through? Which is quite cool to be able to deliver when you encountering either new fans or you're playing a live show, whatever the case is. There's this body of work that kind of embodies what the band is and the influences, and quite a cool way of experiencing a band, as opposed to like having singles released or watching a live band without any body of work.
Yeah. Since you joined later, then is your interpretation of the music or the songs much different from the other guys?
I mean, one or two songs have changed a lot. The others maybe changed on the margin a little bit. I'd like to think I'm a quite high energy musician, which probably changed the mood a little bit.
Loves to throw his hair.
Yeah, that's part of the deal. I think In Front of You is the only song that I really went and re-recorded from scratch, because the song changed a lot with my influence. But it's always an awesome experience stepping into the shoes of somebody else and their ideas and their way of doing things, and kind of adapting them and just changing them on the margin. So when John invited me to come join the band, he said to me, "Marc, I think you're going to love this. This is a rock band, and that's my background. Rock has always been my vibe."
Yeah.
So I kind of took to like a duck to water in a lot of ways, because a lot of this is very inherent to the music that I listen to and the music I enjoy. So a lot of it was kind of plug and play, and some of it, my personality just kind of shaped a different journey on some of the songs. So quite an honor to be part of this experience.
I think actually because of the previous stuff we did together, I don't know, the first thing I described it as after the first jam is it felt like coming home. Because when we're in the room, I actually have bass and lead, and then I stand across from Marc, and within the first minutes, I all I had to do was the same thing. It's just a little nod, just a little thing here. Our communication was all still there. So, and I think for me, I didn't feel like it was a shock to the system. It felt like a comfort to the system, actually.
I mean, it's 8 years of music making that came back after 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost like we never left, which is always a great tell of a good relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's why it also wasn't such a shock for you either. It's like, oh well, I'm playing music with John again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got it back. Yeah,
done this before.
Groundhog Day, huh?
Yeah, no, exactly.
And when you complete a body of work such as your debut album, then individually, how do you look back on it in your mind? Is it kind of like, right, it's done, we'll leave it here, on to the next thing?
It's a very interesting question considering the conversations we've had. Yeah, you do want to just move forward. I mean, all that stuff has been incorporated into the live set. So a lot of the structures are different already. We've already in some ways, to us, we play the songs quite differently to what they are on the album already, because that's what you just do. But yeah, I'm not sure. What do you guys reckon? I mean, it's quite a.
I mean, one of the big questions when I joined the band was, do you want to re-record the drums? And I just thought to myself, somebody else was part of the journey of writing the music, and the music is coherent in its intention. So I think it's a much better idea to rather work going forward rather than looking back and redoing things that have already been created. So for me personally, it's always been a function of, this body of work is there. It's a great set of music. It's an experience that you can enjoy. Let's focus on creating new material and experiencing each other's creativity collectively rather than going back and wanting to put your personal stamp on everything.
Yeah, I would say we've definitely moved. We're moving forward already. I mean, we're already booking weekends and jams to start writing. So we're already in the writing process for the next stuff. So, and I would say we've definitely moved forward. The only reason I sort of hesitated a tiny bit is there's one track on the album I wouldn't mind trying to do a remix, a slight, just getting it mixed again, just not sitting exactly how I would like it to sit. But it still sounds really cool. But I just think it had a potential to be a single, and right now it's not really mixed for that. So there's just one of them. But I mean, the other part of me is like, just let it be. Like, move on. I'm so excited to get writing because we actually finished the songs like 8 months ago. And I just really want to start making new music now. But we're so amped to be playing this stuff live. It's really fun.
Yeah,
really
yeah. That must be kind of a bit annoying though, because for the listeners, it's new. It's just out now. But for you, you're living with it for, as you said, 8 months. You've got the itch to create something new, put new stuff out there. How do you kind of deal with it?
I mean, it's because it almost takes a life of its own live. So at the shows, it feels like because we're still performing the songs for the first time. I think if we performed the songs for a year, it would have been completely different. But I'm still loving playing these songs, and I'm still like, each gig I fall in love with a different song at gig. So I'm still it's very fresh in that regard. When it comes to jamming the songs in our own band room, probably not as fresh. We probably prefer to start working on newer stuff. When we practice our set, we just quickly jam the set, we put it in, or we structure it, and then we go and do the show, and then we would like to move on to new things. But yeah, live, it still feels fresh.
Yeah. Right. And it's called Concerts That Made Us. So I have to ask you, as a concert goer, what concerts do you think have made you?
The first ever gig I went to was probably the most raucous gig I ever went to. And it did have quite an impact. It's funny enough, it was in Cape Town. I was 16 years old, and it was actually, you remember a band called Skunk and Nancy?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, they toured Cape Town. And I remember, because it was 97? I don't know, somewhere around then. I remember it was the year that they won the Best Live Act at the Brit Awards. And I managed to see them that year, and it was an insane live act. But I think from there, there have been some other big concerts. That one and the last one I went to, which was Pearl Jam in London, that was...
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was not normal, because they've been my favorites growing up. And after 24 years of listening to them since I was like 10, I finally got to see them live. But I mean, I don't know what shows influenced you guys there.
Well, there's one that I didn't see live, but I watched a live DVD that completely changed my life. That was the Green Day Bullet in a Bible. That's the reason why I started playing music.
Oh, man.
That's a ridiculous concert. And then seeing Biffy Clyro when they came down here, that was the most ridiculous concert I've ever seen. So good.
Nice.
I mean, for me, it's quite interesting because I used to own a live music venue, so I've probably watched thousands of bands live. And, the one consistent thing that exists throughout the shows is just this this incredible energy that's created in a live environment. So if I had to pick a band, it'd be Incubus without question. They were here not too long ago. John had like a 5-year stint of rubbing it in my face that he was him up in London when he was there. I got under my belt now. So for me, this is still probably the single best band of all time. But you know, like I've had the extreme honor of watching probably at least thousands of bands over the years. And
oh my God.
You know, the magic of the consistency of what happens to a room when a band performs live is just, it's one of those things that is undeniable. It's just the coolest. So, you know, and same for us as performers. I think when you're on stage and you kind of got a crowd in who's giving you their full attention, it's just one of the most rewarding things that exists.
Yeah, I think that I just realized something as you were speaking. But I remember the first like major excitement because I was 17 and my brother picked me up from school and he took me to see U2 in Cape Town. U2 was playing at the Greenpoint Stadium and they were on that. Remember the Lemonia tour with that big lemon that opened on the.
Yeah.
Remember that? So I went to go see that. And that's just that excitement of being in a stadium and just feeling like that energy. It was just incredible. And I remember that. I'll never forget that gig. They actually came out on a walkway and they played Sunday Bloody Sunday, like on the end of this, like right out in the crowd on an acoustic guitar. And I was like, I'll never forget that. Those things have to impact you.
Yeah, definitely. Was that the gig that I think Springbok Nude Girls opened for them?
I think Nude Girls did open for them. Have you spoken to Arno and them?
Yeah, about 2 years ago at this stage now, but he was that was his favorite gig he'd ever played, but it always sticks in my mind. It must have been one hell of a gig.
It was
a tough one to crack.
In those days, I mean, that stadium was packed, absolutely packed. It was a full sports stadium, so like a full rugby stadium, and the place was just. Yeah. I don't know if I've seen a gig like that in South Africa since then.
Foo Fighters one was pretty nice.
Yeah, Foo Fighters was sick. Yeah, Foo Fighters was enormous.
I mean, the fact that a band can stick it out for 3.5 hours or whatever it was and just perform on that level is just on a completely different scale of musicianship. It's just incredible.
Send some more bands our way. We're being slightly starved the last 4 or 5 years. There's not a lot of bands coming here.
So I've heard.
Hey, sorry?
I said, so I've heard.
I don't know what's going on. The internationals, it's almost like we were on the stop for the world tours and we suddenly are not on that stop anymore.
Kind of something similar is happening over here as well. There's a lot of big bands announcing world tours and they're literally playing everywhere, like a circle around Ireland and just not stopping in Ireland, you know?
It's actually funny. It's funny you should say that. We're not a big band at all, but we in our recent conversations, Ireland was actually the first place we spoke about as the place we would actually like to tour.
Really?
We toured the UK with Red Tape Riot. So we were thinking we can tour Ireland and we can still do 3 or 4 shows in London on the way in and the way out. But then we could probably just tour Ireland. But we have no idea where we would even start to play. But our bassist has toured Ireland.
Yeah, so I mean, our bassist is literally like committed himself to moving to Ireland. So it's just a matter of time, really.
We can have a new bassist in about 2 years. When he wants to live in Ireland. You never know. Maybe I'll
do a tour and we can live in there.
Yes, exactly. Free ticket. And maybe the tour goes well, then we stay in Ireland. Who knows? You know,
never know. Worse things could happen, I suppose.
Oh man, it's a beautiful country, so I wouldn't mind.
And there's something incredible about the appreciation of music in Ireland that is very different to anywhere else that I've been to. In that, you know, like Ireland has such a deep-rooted culture in music, and you know that whole Temple Bar district in Dublin is just, you know, like I'll never forget. I spent about 2 or 3 weeks in Dublin. And I remember walking just randomly through the streets of Dublin, and I walked past one of those, you know, which is now historic, but CD stores. And in the middle of a CD store on a random, you know, like a weekday, there was a band performing in the store. And I just thought to myself, that's badass. That is where music is supposed to be, you know?
Yeah.
And the world has changed a lot, but that really left a real, like, lifelong impression on me.
Yeah, I actually forgot that even used to happen. That used to be like in the town I grew up in, that was like the weekly Saturday thing to do, go down to the local CD shop and watch the local band launch their CD.
So
It's
awesome.
really cool.
And of course, I mean, the busking scene is a real thing as well, which unfortunately doesn't really exist here.
Really?
But not at all. It's basically illegal
one.
Because, like noise complaints and such things.
Out of the waterfront players, some guys. We do have some. I think we would actually honest like a lot of like traditional acts and dances and stuff, like Zulu dance and stuff like that. They do that kind of stuff down at the heart in the waterfront, which is amazing because that's what honestly tourists really love to come and see, like all the traditional stuff. They don't want to see like some guys playing in a rock band and like we can see this back home.
I mean, once upon a time when we were in London, we ended up doing a little busking session under like a train tracks. And it was just like, hey, we're gonna go do this busking thing and see what happens. And I don't think we had permits or anything.
We made like 40 pounds in like 20 minutes.
It was the most incredible experience because like we just did what we usually do and people gave us money for it. And it was so cool because like we were literally in and out so quickly. It was super awkward as well because it's not something we've ever done before. But I can see why busking becomes almost like the lifeblood of a band because you learn how to engage with the audience that might not necessarily be interested in what you're doing, but if you hone your craft and you know how to entertain people, it becomes such an amazing skill to have. So that was quite cool.
And each coin was like a beer in South Africa. like, oh look, there's 50p. That's almost another beer. It's just so crazy.
Oh man!
I wanted actually, if I went back with the group, which I am hoping we do, I would do a lot more busking.
Yeah,
it's such a good way to. It's if nothing else, it's an amazing way to make money. I couldn't believe we made that money. If you think about it, that means we made like £30 an hour, or £25 an hour each,
maybe more.
Yeah, it's like for us. That's like 8 times the minimum wage in South Africa.
Oh my god! I know there's guys in Dublin that like that literally is their job. They just Monday to Friday, or say Monday to Saturday, they busk, and they don't even have any aspirations to go any further with their music. They're just happy out there singing covers, making their money, and that's it.
Yeah, they're probably living off it. I mean, there's a guy. I saw them in London. There would be a guy in the same place every day. He's there all the time. He's basically there and he plays his saxophone and the box is like always got money in it. And I think like he obviously lives this, his living. That's how he survived.
Yeah.
And I will be honest. Remember that. I mean, you're going through the tube station and then suddenly you hear this music and it's actually amazing in the middle of that environment of like, I don't know.
The hustle and bustle, craziness.
City bustle and craziness and like, I don't know, it's just a magic, it's like this magic sound as you come around the corner. There's this guy playing like amazing solos. It's so cool.
Yeah. And back to your own gigs then. For any listeners that haven't caught one of them, what can you tell us about?
Oh,
we don't even know. There's always a little element of a surprise. We don't know when Tristan's going to do his solo or when John's going to rock out or
that does face.
Tristan does crazy faces.
He does faces when he plays lead, which is very cool on purpose. I definitely jump up and down. Marc swings hair, so you can expect a lot of that. I'll see our bassist he really does rock out as well. So I think we actually, in all honesty, we're a band you can see really enjoys playing music with each other. Half the gig you look around, we're all smiling and we're jamming and rocking out, and it's, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's an very authentic experience because we're just enjoying ourselves. That's what this band is all about. We're just being ourselves. And it's, it's almost like even if something went wrong on stage, we would not be stressed.
That's the best part, actually. There's an element of maybe 5 to 10% of the show that's unpredictable even to us. And we all kind of look forward. Maybe if somebody makes a mistake, or John misses a line in the vocals, or I missed the cue for
every gig.
A thing, or like something's always going to happen. And it's kind of awesome to experience what happens when the whole band as a unit just flows with it, And I always said the coolest thing about music is that it's like a language between people that normal people won't understand, because something's happening. We're communicating with each other in musical notes and language because we have all this history of making music together. there's these amazing moments where, you know, like CJ will turn around and look at me because he knows I missed that cue that I always miss, and it's just one of those things, and it's just a bit of a chuckle. So, but mostly, I think the magic is in that we just all really enjoy playing. And when you get to entertain a crowd and you see the crowd enjoying themselves, it just becomes such a special experience. You know, in fact, I had a realization not too long ago that, you know, like if I have a kid, the question is, will my kid ever get to experience live music? Because in today's day and age, a lot of the kids don't even know the bands that they're listening to because it's a Spotify playlist that is, you know, they love the songs, they know the songs, but they don't necessarily know who wrote it and the body of work that's backed by it. So, you know, like one of my number one priorities will be to take my kid to as many live music shows as humanly possible, because there's just something incredible that happens when musicians do what they do live in front of an audience, and they just get lost in the journey along the way, and they drag a whole bunch of people with them while they do it.
Yeah, actually. Here's one for you though. What if your kid doesn't like the type of music you're into? Would it be
they're not going to
heartbreaking?
have a choice. They will have zero choice in the matter. When you start them from really early, they just have to go along with it. Eh?
See, you think that now.
There's lots of families at the adoption centers looking for kids.
I mean, it's different how all of us become came to love the music that we're playing now, because, you know, it's like heavily inspired the music that our parents made us listen to when we were kids. And you don't have a reference point. You don't really have a choice in the matter either, you know? Like, it's one of the craziest things. I've listened to a shit ton of Elton John in my life, and the songwriting is just incredible. You know, and I went to like a 70s tribute show the other day, and it's, you know, you listen to the authentic, like the acid-inspired musical creation that has no click track and no, you know, like process. It's just pure musicality that just gets thrown out there. And I mean, to a large degree, I think, you know, we don't have a choice of what we're influenced by, except for what our parents or our peers introduce us to, and that's part of the magic, because you get your influences become your identity when it comes to musicality after a while. Which is incredible. I mean, what a gift to give somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And back to your gigs then, you know, if you think about all the gigs you've played since you started, is there one that sticks in your mind as maybe the best one so far?
Oh, no question about that.
The first dance one.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, the one in this band, in the band since our launch was, I don't know, hey, like I've got two. I'm going to go with the launch, and then there was this other gig we played this gig in small town called this place called Tarantino's. There's probably only like, I don't know. It's like, first of all, when I walked in there, the first thing I thought is, oh my goodness, I've gone back in time. There's a whole bunch of people here, like so many rock-looking people looking to like
Rockers and
everyone,
bikers,
rockers and bikers.
90s rock.
I'm in a time warp, and it was a gig that we just got invited to sort of last minute. And we played, and I don't know, there was just something about the energy of that show. It was just surging, and it was just insane. And it was a good lesson. It's because our energy was so good. We felt so good. The crowd's response was getting crazy. I mean, people were like screaming and like, it's going mad. It was so relaxed because we literally had played a show an hour before that gig. And we suddenly got this other one. We drove down the road and played and walked on, set up and played straight away.
And there's something really raw about it, because, you know, when it was at the end of our tour, we'd just gone and played a whole bunch of shows with our own PA, with our own sound guy, with our own rig. I brought my own kits. Everybody brought their own amps. And walking onto the stage that is completely unfamiliar, and just, you know, like doing your best with what you have was just, it's so raw and so real. And the space was just amazing. And the people had a great time.
The set list was like random. Like,
it's like John literally called out songs as we go. So there was something very old school rock and roll about it, even though it was during the daytime, you know, in like a semi-outdoor venue. It was a vibe.
Yeah, it was real, so different to the launch. I mean, the launch was lots of people.
Yeah.
It was an amazing experience. I mean, it was a very magical experience.
Super PA as well, like big sound system, just like everything worked out exactly how we wanted it. It had great drum sound.
I don't know, maybe it's because we're friends with the engineer here, but he just did such overkill on the sound in this venue. It's an outdoor venue, but I mean, I think we had complaints across the valley here within like about The drum sound. I heard the drums. And I was
Like a
like,
stadium.
"Oh my goodness, man! This sounds like a stadium drum, like in like a 300 capacity venue."
Oh man.
It was so over the top, but it was
amazing.
so amazing. Like,
Yeah. The sounds of
yeah.
If we were to flip that question on its head then, and you think about all the gigs you've ever played, I'll go easy. It can be from since when you started. Is there one you would say is the worst experience, and how did you overcome it?
That's a very interesting question.
Oh, it's very clear for me.
I think I was all in the early days in time, but I can't really exactly put my finger on the exact. But I do remember having gigs where, back in the day, where we didn't actually have spare anything and breaking strings on guitars and then not having a spare string. But these are things from like really in the beginning. And I think there was a gig that I think, I can't really think of. I've erased them. I'm literally trying to think now. I know they happened, but I can't remember them exactly.
Too traumatic.
Yeah, no, exactly. I just went, no, that's cool.
Interesting, you have one.
Yeah, with my first band, we went into this little small venue, but they had like big Marshall stacks, nice wedges, smoke machine, lights, everything. So the band before us plays, amazing show, and then they like finish their set and pack up everything.
Wow.
Everything. So they pack up all the amps, they take the wedges, smoke machines, everything, and then we left there with like a microphone and like a small. Yeah, it was a time.
For me, it's
like while packing up, obviously everyone's like, okay, the show's done, so everyone's gone.
Oh.
Maybe like 10 people.
That's actually the most. That probably sounds worse than anything I've experienced.
I think that comes to me. For me, it's for sure a gig I played with a previous band. I was just sessioning for a season, and I distinctly remember really getting into my own head. Because I made a mistake, and then like you're overthinking the situation, you completely lose the feel of the music, and you keep making mistakes, and like it just kind of snowballs onto itself. And I remember after the show, I walked backstage, and I was like, I'm in so much trouble right now because I just totally let the band down. And the guys pulled me up, and they got into a big huddle. They were like, Marc, are you okay? Because that was not your best. We know what your best is, and that was not it. Do you need something to make you feel better? Because this is not working. And I remember halfway through that show thinking to myself, this is a disaster. Like no one's ever going to talk to me again. So, I mean, that is for sure my worst. But I think second after that is, being a background band in a restaurant where nobody cares that you even exist.
Why do I feel like there's nothing worse than if the drums go wrong? Why do I feel like it's the worst being the drummer and everything goes wrong? Because if the drums go wrong, it's almost like the pulse and the whole beats of the gig, the whole thing is like dead. There's not much you can do. I mean, I used to think it was a bad thing. I'll forget a few lyrics or break a string. But I don't know, man, I can get through that. But if the drums mess up, he's like, or he snaps a stick and he has none left or something. I mean, what is he going to do?
I'm prepared for that.
I think what happens in the kick pedal breaks?
I've done that as well. I've played shows where kick drums slide away from you and hi-hat stands go, and you're sitting there with like spread eagle position. So, but I mean that is easy, like, relatively easy to deal with. I think the hardest was just like getting in your own head and absolutely. I don't know if we can swear on this, but like like just grade A being a clusterfuck as a musician, and the band just keeps turning around thinking, "What are you doing?"
It's weird all that. It's like,
and part of the experience comes from like learning how to recover and getting back into the things that you you can do, trusting in yourself and your systems and all the stuff that you usually. That's why the Tarantino show was so cool, because we played after playing so many shows and we had nothing that was consistent. No, like the monitoring wasn't the same, the PA wasn't the same, but there was just this raw energy that came out of us as a band. So yeah,
I suddenly realized something when you're the drummer as well, because I actually noticed when there's something on the drum, I always like just glance at me like, and I actually think everyone probably turns around each time something goes, like the whole band goes.
Yeah, it depends. It
Yeah,
depends
actually.
on the personality of musicians. Most of the guys will take a convenient strategic moment to just glance over in my direction, be like, "I know what you did."
Yeah, but it's like semi encouraging. It's like it's like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Don't worry. But like, yeah, we heard it. But it must
Oh,
be
man.
funny because every time it happens, you see all these faces turn quickly towards you.
I think the more professional you get, the more you learn not to do it in the moment where the project problem happens.
I think we're better than that now.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we definitely just go with the flow, like whatever. It's like it is what it is. Sometimes I find if you go with the flow, like you can just make mistakes if they didn't happen.
Yeah, well, it's about if you're enjoying it, then you're not going to get into that whole ego thing.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
am I doing a job? It's just like have fun, and then it's
Exactly.
always great.
Yeah, there's this crazy thing about our bassist because he's a really, really, truly talented musician. And he just has this smirk on his face when I made a mistake, because he can play every instrument you throw at him. He knows how to play it. And he just like kind of grins at me and just kind of glances in my direction and is like, "Oh shit, he knows."
That's why I always I have a smile with him when every now and then he hits the wrong
Yeah,
note.
correct.
He hits the wrong note and he goes like whoops. But he's such an incredible bassist. Yeah, Merlin. I mean, behind me is like home, because I've worked with Marc for so long, and to my left and right is the best bassist and guitarist I've ever worked with. So I mean, and that feeling is unbelievable. It's such a
I could imagine.
It feels so comforting. I feel so relaxed, at the shows. And I'm not always the most relaxed when it comes to nerves and stuff before gigs, but in this band, I don't really mind. If I forget my lyrics, he can just shred a solo, and everyone will forget that. The rest of the band isn't even there.
Got your back, Joe.
Have you listened to some of these solos on this album? Oh.
Yeah. It's unreal. The next Jimmy Page, huh?
Yeah, I like the freestyle stuff live is even cooler.
Yeah,
that's yeah.
And you made me think of something there. How do you deal with the pre-show and post-show? How do you psych yourself up? How do you wind down afterwards?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good answer.
No, to be honest, it really is like. I mean, I think we hang out together, but I think we just. I don't know. There used to be more of a routine when we felt like we needed to have the psych. Whereas I think now in our lives, we know how to switch it on and then switch it off. Yeah. So sometimes, I mean, someone's hanging out with their girlfriend until 5 minutes before, and okay, guys, we do a little huddle, we go on, but we switch, we lock in. But I think on the bigger shows, there'll be a deliberate gathering for a bit of time, and we'll do that. But and also like with a little bit of nerves, there's nothing wrong with literally like 2, 3, 4 pints. Just before you just have a little, then you just feel it, just take the little edge off, and then afterwards, I mean, afterwards is the buzz. I mean, afterwards is always a buzz. It's just anything goes at that point. Everyone's talking at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Everyone's chatting to everyone, and we have more beers. Definitely, nice. It's just the way it is.
This is why we need to go to the island.
Yeah, exactly.
This is actually a pitch.
I was thinking it's going too well.
Exactly.
And before we dive into the last couple of questions, then future plans for the rest of the year. Lay it all out first.
Well, I mean, ironic because we were just sitting with the calendar trying to plan.
The calendar is literally right here in front of us. And we've got to do a couple of shows. We're going to release another single from this album.
Some good songwriting sessions.
In May and June, we're actually going to be releasing some new bits and pieces as well, because Tristan's actually going to America for 2 months. So May and June he'll be away, and so before that we'll play shows up until then, and we'll release some music while he's away, and then when he gets back we'll go on a tour again. But up until then, there's a lot of songwriting. Basically, everything's going to go into songwriting or preparing for the next show, and that's what we're going to do. We just want to get the music from this album out. Also, we haven't had really much time to do that. We were discussing videos now. We need to put some kind of video content out, so we're going to do some kind of stuff which fits the songs, and yeah, it's pretty much it for now. I mean,
there's also something exciting about the idea that in our current form factor, always think of it like what are those guys called, Transformers. This band has shifted and shaped so many times into different guises and different combinations that us as a collective haven't really had an opportunity to write a lot of music. We've had a couple of songwriting sessions, or maybe Tristan will rock out a little riff and suddenly the band locks in with it, But I think the idea that we get an opportunity to just get away for a long weekend and just write and see what comes out the other end of it is, that sort of super low pressure, really high enthusiasm experience where your only focus is being creative on your instrument and having an amazing space to be creative during that process. I think that's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, we've got the unit finalized. So the unit, it was finalized, but then it was like, okay, we need to finish the album and then go straight into practicing this album for the launch. So from a creative point of view, really can't wait for this unit to actually spend some time together. But weirdly enough, our previous bassist, we were actually going away for a writing weekend. And how this whole thing came about was he couldn't make it. And Marc said, I know a guy who can play bass. We just fill in for the weekend while we write. And then CJ came in, filled in. For that weekend, we wrote some stuff, had a really great weekend, ended up at some random house up the mountain, and there's all sorts of things happen. And then that was that. And then for the next 2 months, we carried on working as we were. And then things didn't work out with the other bassists. And we all agreed, like, let's talk to CJ to come in for the launch. And then straight after the launch, we said to him, man, we really would love you to join the band. So we have actually had a weekend away together, which that was the first moment for the unit. But Marc's right. We can't wait to just spend time just writing together and really creating the next chapter.
And it's kind of cool because you don't really know what's coming either. It's like something will inspire somebody, and I might bring a groove, or Tristan might bring a riff, or Cedar will bring a bass line, and you never know where that song is going to go and where the writing mood is going to go. And that's kind of the best part in a lot of ways of being in a band and being like co-creators of something that is a collective, because, like we said earlier on, there's something about everybody chipping in their little bit into the collective, idea, and usually turns into something amazing along the way. Realistically, when you're jamming, 95% of what you're doing is trash. But the 5% is exactly the seeds that you need to build a really amazing piece of music that has the hooks and has the groove and has the vibe. And Tristan is ridiculous at writing little guitar licks and complementing vocal melodies. So it's going to be a very exciting time because we don't even know what's going to happen, which is kind of half the fun.
We've got all we have really is a sort of core, like, we're going to sort of stay true to the authentic sound, not be afraid to use our influences and past influences in world music, and not be afraid to do that, but we're just going to push the creative envelope a little bit more next. So we can just get quite creative on this one, but we still want it at core to be melodic storytelling.
Yeah.
We still want a story and we still want melody.
I was going to ask, how different do you think it will sound from this album?
We don't know yet.
Honestly, I can have a good punt at it. I think it's going to be about 50% of it's going to be reminiscent of this album because we're still mostly the same musicians. But I think intricacies are going to be a lot more. I mean, especially with CJ, is very intricate bassist, and I think the grooves are going to be a little bit more sort of varied throughout the album. So I don't know. I think it's going to be different, but I don't think it's going to be like a complete different band.
Yeah, I think at the core, all of the songs include a melodic journey and a storytelling vibe. So I don't think that's going to change at all. I think all of us have that in common in terms of the music that we listen to. So how it manifests in real life with the little intricacies around the margin is a very different story.
I think you're right. I mean, like we can get as creative as we like, but we're still going to come out with our sound because it's still us. So, I mean, we don't need to focus too much on what we're going to exactly do. I think we'll know when we hear it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Right, we'll dive into the last couple of questions. I always finish with some random fun music questions, so I'm intrigued to see your answers.
Is it trivia?
No, I'm not that mean. If you could play a concert in any unusual place, where would it be?
Say island.
Stonehenge.
That is unusual.
Let me think.
Yo, I don't know. For me, Stonehenge is a no-brainer.
You want to play it?
Can you imagine
It's like you thought
using
about this.
Stonehenge as a venue? I've never thought about it, but it'd be sick though.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
energy in that space must be so incredible. That would be my vote.
yeah,
Or maybe like by the pyramids or something.
You didn't actually mean like a live venue. You meant literally anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere, thinking outside the box.
Oh, okay, cool. Definitely going to be on top of the
There's
mountain.
just going to be a huge
man.
crowd anyway.
Definitely in Cederberg on the top of the mountain.
Machu Picchu, man.
Machu Picchu.
It's like everybody has to hike up to come watch the band.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't like to carry the equipment up though.
No. I think they have Sherpas for that.
No, I think. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I knew. Where would you go?
Maybe like,
Well, pyramids, I dig. Otherwise, Antarctica, I think would be really.
yo, that's gonna be big.
I think Metallica did that,
Your
actually.
fingers are not gonna work, yo.
You'd say Madison Square Gardens, like just before Foo Fighters. That's what we should say.
Yeah. Oh,
But, yeah.
and the next one, so it's a bit of a weird one, but if you had to spend 24 hours locked inside a room with any musician from history, who would it be?
Holy shit.
24 hours only.
Freddie Mercury.
I was going to say Bob Marley, but I'm
Bob
thinking-
Marley is a good choice.
But I think no.
Yo.
24 hours in a room with Bob Marley. No, go feel. He'll come out of there off your face. No, I think
Musician, wow.
I'm gonna actually think of like. Do you know what? I was just thinking about it now.
John Lennon. Surely.
No, I would say like. I'd love to spend an afternoon with, like talking to Tom Petty. He's one of my favorite songwriters. Like he would be like,
good
and
one.
he was so interesting, and his outlook was always great. So I'm gonna go with Tom. Just amazing
like
guy. And you? You just saying?
You want to add anybody else?
Just-
I was going to say Guthrie Govan just because he's like the most ridiculous guitar player ever.
Who's that?
Guthrie Govan. Yeah, he's
I
ridiculous.
thought you might want to hang out with what's his name? Nuno. No, it's not Nuno.
I mean, if it was a band, for me, it'd be Incubus without a question.
I
Oh
was
wait,
thinking that.
about the best answer, the cheesiest one. There's no musicians I'd rather hang out with than these guys.
Ah,
How much did you pay him to say that?
you're supposed to pay us, yo.
No, they just feed me beers, nice things they said.
Oh, right.
Okay.
The final one. So,
Okay.
what album do you constantly go back to? What's your go-to?
Oh, that's a no-brainer for me as well.
I'm trying to think now. There is one, but I can't remember what it is. What is it now? So just
Trizzy, do you have one?
Green Day.
American Idiot is up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No way.
Oh, dude, I love that kind of
And
stuff.
Green Day is the band that got me out of pop, so I can relate to that.
Do you know
quite a lot.
one of my favorite albums ever, which I'll never stop listening to, is Pearl Jam Versus. That album.
Understandable.
The recording is so raw and so like.
I mean, Pearl Jam Yield was my teenage life, so that's a good one.
Yeah, but
I think, there's so many. I think if I had to pick one album, Incubus Morning View, without
I like
question, it's just such a magic piece of experience.
It's actually one I haven't listened to in a couple of years now.
Oh man, it is
Yeah.
such a great. If you get to watch the DVD, sink your teeth into it because it is quite something. You know, if a band goes and rents this kick-ass house somewhere, I'm assuming in California, and gets the right music in a home that they rented for 6 months, and then do a live show afterwards of the material they just created and documented in a DVD, is just the life.
Definitely.
there's some epic albums out there. Bob Marley definitely comes into it as well.
System
Yeah.
of Down is
Yeah,
one
our
else.
system was going to be
Yeah,
my
actually.
choice. Eh?
Yeah.
Band
It's hard to
alive.
narrow it down. Listen, guys, it's been an absolute blast now. Genuinely, this is the most fun I've had in a long time. Thanks again.
Yes.
Very good.
No,
Come
thanks.
to the show, it'll be even better.
Thanks so much for having us.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.